Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. So today, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, is in Washington, D.C. He is in the United States asking, obviously, for more military equipment and, more importantly, cash. The Ukrainians need cash. They need greenbacks. They need dollars. The Ukrainians are now spending more than $40 billion a year on their military defense budget. They are receiving billions and billions in U.S. military aid. But at the end of the day, the Ukrainian state needs to pay its military forces, it needs to pay its government workers, it needs to pay salaries, it needs to maintain roads that are being destroyed, it needs to maintain infrastructure with, of course, American and European currency. Now, the big question is this: has there been communication between the Russian High Command and General Milley at the Pentagon? And what has that communication looked like? Has the Russians informed General Milley, the Pentagon, the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, that under absolute no certain terms, absolutely not, will Ukrainian forces enter the Crimea? Have the Russians told the Pentagon that they would resort to the use of tactical nuclear weapons to prevent any sort of military occupation of the Crimea? Hypothetically, do you think that has occurred? Because the messaging that is coming out of the Pentagon is tempered. The Pentagon is no longer talking about a strategic victory. They are now using the term tactical victories. Well, what is a tactical victory? Well, a tactical victory could be a tactical achievement along the line of contact, along the existing front line. A strategic victory would be something along the lines of severing the land corridor to Crimea or a direct military threat to Crimea. If you look at U.S. aid to Ukraine, it has been dosed in very incremental stages, just enough to keep the war going. Just enough to keep the Ukrainians in the fight. But not enough to really tilt the conflict where the Ukrainians could absolutely threaten the land corridor and or Crimea. And I have to wonder if the reason behind that is because the Russians have told General Milley, look, we are not going to lose Crimea. We believe we can hold Crimea. We believe we can hold the land corridor through conventional military power. Now, if for some reason we can't, then we will use tactical nuclear weapons. You are not going to retake Crimea. Crimea and the land corridor to Crimea is not going to be controlled by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And look, let's just face it, folks, whatever entity exists after this conflict, whatever entity that is called Ukraine, in all probability will be finagled into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, even against all rules, policies, in NATO's own charter, in which it says it cannot accept a country like Ukraine. I have this hunch that it will be accepted into the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in some way. Whatever's left. It's going to happen. They may not call it a full-fledged member of NATO, but I guarantee you it is going to be armed. Whatever entity exists after this conflict, if it exists, is going to be rearmed, and militarily it is going to look a lot like NATO, and in all probability there will be U.S. forces in Western Ukraine. If, and again, if that entity exists. And obviously the war isn't over with yet, so we cannot fully say that that is going to occur. But I believe at this point, the Russians have messaged to the United States under no uncertain terms that they will not allow a military operation by the Ukrainians into Crimea, nor the severing of the land corridor. Obviously, their first goal will be to defeat the Ukrainian military backed by NATO through conventional military means. But if it comes down to it, the Russians, in all probability, have messaged that they will use tactical nuclear weapons against the Ukrainians. I think that's happened. And that is why we are seeing what we're seeing from the Pentagon. It is a catch-22 for the Pentagon. They can't go all in and directly support a military operation against Crimea with the understanding that the Russians would go nuclear. So here we sit. What will happen? Will there be some sort of miscalculation on the part of the Biden administration? There's a lot of miscalculations on the part of the Biden administration. It is a self-propelled, miscalculating machine. What did the former president, Barack Al-Hussein Obama, what did he say about Joe Biden? What was that comment? If anybody could fuck something up, it would be Joe Biden. Well, here we go. So again, not a lot has changed on the ground. We are continuing to see the status quo just south of Orikhiv. We are hearing word that the Ukrainians may be trying to make another drive towards Verbova. We hear that the Ukrainians may receive 1 battalion set of 31 M1 main battle tanks here shortly. We have to then assume the Russians are going to be attacking wherever those main battle tanks are located, whether they're in a storage depot, being moved by railway, or being moved by Hemet on the road. Difficult to say at this point, but I can guarantee you the Russians will be attempting to attack those systems prior to those systems being forward deployed to the battlefield. Well, at the same time, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility that the Russians will want those systems at the front line so the Russians can show off destroying some M1A1 main battle tanks or A2 main battle tanks. So that's where we set for today. We will have more very, very soon. Thank you for joining us. More to come. As always, have a good day.